Hello, welcome to this live broadcast on QTV on another edition of Decision 2026, our flagship countdown to the December polls. I am Umudumbuj. On this set today, men are very much in the minority government, quite fittingly so, because we are discussing something very important. How do political parties address gender issues? Perhaps more specifically, which party has the best women's empowerment policies? Today I'm joined by my panelist, Aissatou Keita, President of the Gambia Press Union. Aissatou, welcome. I haven't seen you since the very first episode. And we've had a few now. This is what, fifth or sixth episode?
Yes.
Welcome, though.
Yeah, thank you. And it's a pleasure to be back again on Decision 2026, and especially on the topic that we'll be discussing today. Quite a very pertinent topic, and for something that has actually been on the minds of people. So looking at how the world has shaped, especially when it comes to women. So with people asking the question no longer being whether women should be there, but what has been created by the political parties. I think it's going to be an interesting discussion today, and we'll be looking forward.
Absolutely, quite a panel we have here today. On my immediate right, we have Ramzieh Diab, who is an executive member of the National People's Party. Ramzieh, welcome to the program.
Good evening, Modumboj.
Yes.
I'm glad to be here, and I think today is going to be very interesting when it comes to women's empowerment.
Absolutely, yes. And on her right, we have Fatou Jade, I think West Coast Region Coordinator and Women's Affairs Member, PDOIS. Welcome to the program.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening to you all. It's a pleasure being here today on this platform. Today is my first time being in QTV here, but I hope it won't be the last.
Absolutely, really enjoy yourself. Sitting on Aissatou Keita's left, we have Yakumba Jaite. She's the Deputy Senior Admin Secretary and Police Legal Committee Member of the United Democratic Party. Welcome to the program, Yakumba.
Thank you, Mr. Mbuj. It's a pleasure to be here on this very important discussions about women's affairs. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And the non-party political member, Degen Jo of our panel, Chairperson Network of Women in Political Leadership. Welcome to the program, Degen.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Wood, for having me and my tribe tonight. We're very happy to be here. Your studio looks elegant tonight, and much appreciation.
Come on, don't stop. Say some more. All right, thank you very much. Now, let's move on to our first question, a general one, really. I wonder, though, imagine a woman now watching, really. Why should the woman believe that your party is the best political vehicle for advancing her interest? First with Ramzieh.
Oh. Why choose me first?
You're on my right. I don't know, why do you always go to us out first? I don't know why we do that.
Well,
okay.
as we go along, you will see the progress my party has been making on women's empowerment. Women's empowerment is at the heart of the NPP's vision in improving the lives of women. And you have seen most of what has been done by encouraging women enterprises, putting women in the forefront in the political field, and also you have seen some time ago that about 66.32 million was disbursed to women all over the region in order to start their microfinance businesses. And we've seen women being trained to do entrepreneurship, to be trained on skills. So women have been in the forefront in our party. So I think I'll stop there for the time.
Absolutely, this is just general. Fatou Jane,
Yes.
same question.
Yeah, I'm happy for the question. If you say we are advocating for, or our motto is liberty, dignity, and prosperity, it cannot happen behind women, because it requires both participation of men and women. There is no development which can take place in the absence of women. And then for that being the case, we are having a women's bureau purposely responsible for women and children affairs in our party.
Okay, specifically that. Okay, Yakuma Yaita for UDP, same question.
Thank you. For the UDP, I think it's not just about what we say. It's actually, we're not just talking the talk, we are working the work when it comes to women in leadership particularly. I will start from there. If you look at the formation of the National Executive of the United Democratic Party, I'll give you the numbers. You have, out of the elected executive members, 16 out of the 37 elected members are women. This constitutes at least 43% of the elected members of the executive. In our executive, the party leader and Secretary General has the power to nominate 11 executive members to fill in the gaps, and 7 out of the 11 that were nominated are women. This constitutes 63.6%. And in general, if you look at the national executive, between the nominated and the elected, 35% of the executive constitutes of women. And I think this goes to show how much we value the leadership of women, the voice of women in the United Democratic Party. And this was a conscious decision taken at Congress in 2018 or 2019, where a resolution was passed that at least 30% of the leadership of the party would be women. And since then, we've been working very hard towards that. We've had recent elections where the campaign manager, deputy campaign manager, organizing secretary, deputy organizing secretary, all of these positions were vacant, and women actually competed for this position. And I think for the first time in the history of Gambia, we have a deputy campaign manager responsible for an entire campaign as a female. Also, deputy organizing secretary as a female. So, Mr. Bush, this is the United Democratic Party.
Okay, I think it's important for me to say that we should have had another guest from Unite, but the person didn't turn up. I think it's fair to say that. They joke. Often with these parties, we have to say there's been a gap between the rhetoric and the institutionalization, as it were, of certain mechanisms to sort of promote women. From what you've heard, what's your impression so far?
Very well. And thank you very much, Mr. Boyd, for that question. I think for the past 2 years or so, I am lucky to sit in different initiatives that is geared towards promoting women political participation, but also encouraging political parties in different ways by having them sign agreements and also give their affirmation to ensure that they increase women participation in their executive, in their party levels, and when elections comes to also increase the number of candidates they send out in the field. When we were signing the IDEA Accord, I was there, and this year also through Westminster Foundation, we have series of engagement with different tiers of political parties to have this. What I want to say, Mr. Mbojes, with all those discussions, those dialogues, and those commitments, this is the year to sow for it. This is the year to sow for it. It is this year that we are going to know which political party is actually serious about their commitment towards women. And 2026 is here, 2027 is coming, where we can have a very large number of women, both at the parliamentary and local government levels. So for me, my job here this year is to continue engaging partners, continue engaging political parties, but also supporting women to go back to the grassroots and do the work needed so that we are able to sell them to their political parties to bring them forward. But also at the end of the political parties to ensure that they hold their side of the agreement that this time we are going to put more women forward so that we will do our job in the grassroots to ensure more women win.
Absolutely, a year to show for it. Aissatou, so this is it. There must be some skin to the game.
Yeah,
What do you think?
it's quite an interesting one because following, taking cue from Degen's remarks on the issue of ensuring that political parties make commitment and all that, and then hearing from all of what they've said, being some of the commitments that the political parties have said and actually have put out. But sometimes you question what the level of being able to ensure that they move beyond the commitments, but then actualizing it. The aspect of signing and affirming themselves that they will actually ensure that probably quota being given to women, but does it actually stop at the aspect of affirmation and those confirmation? Because now when you look at the period that we are in at the moment, most of all the political parties, you have just gentlemen been leading there. So in terms of how best do we move women forward, how committed are they from the commitments and the signatures that they put on paper in terms of pushing women forward? Like Degen did mention, let's see what happens in the 2027 when it comes to the National Assembly elections, what could change. But it might still go back to where we were pushing forward to ensure that political parties are still able to ensure that women are at the forefront beyond those executive positions that are just been given to them. But how do we ensure that they also take part and have women behind supporting them too?
Absolutely, and perhaps even before the parliamentary elections, whoever in the presidential elections wins, cabinet positions.
Yes.
Have you made any commitments? Yes. Isn't it?
Why, look at me.
Well,
like I told you, you are going.
Are there any commitments, as it were, so that, for instance, we win in our cabinet, we'll say 30% of membership of the cabinet would be women. Is there any such commitment?
Yeah, I will tell you that this president is very much committed in women taking the forefront in cabinet, in the diplomatic field, in National Assembly. Right now we have few. That is true. But I just want to assure you that come this 2026, 2027, you are going to see a lot of changes. The president is very committed in putting the women in front. I have attended a lot of workshops on women empowerment with Degen and others, and we have resolved to assign an agreement with all the political leaders some time ago to make sure that 30% is reserved for women, especially in the National Assembly. Now, we also discussed that this can be done with all the parties. We can be committed in doing it. But also, the National Assembly has to be committed in passing that bill to ensure that this is a law, that women, when they want to vie for seats in the parliament, they know that these seats are reserved for women. And women now have the courage to come forward and vie for the National Assembly. With that not done, there we would face some obstacles for sure.
Absolutely, but still with the cabinet. Commitment or promises? We still haven't got
It's
that.
not just a promise, it's a commitment. And you will see this president committed to doing that. This has also been already been discussed, and he is really committed into doing that.
Is it written in your policies?
It is written in our policies, not 100% yet, but I don't want to sit here and start talking big, but it is something that we are committed into doing, and I know this president is going to do that, because you have people like us behind and pushing all the time to make sure that women are always in the forefront.
Fatou Jane,
Yes.
imagine a government post 5th of December, commitment to having at least 30% in the cabinet?
Yes, I'll come back onto the Women Bureau. As I said, this past Congress, we established a Women Bureau, and then part of its functions is to recruit these women candidates. And then we normally conduct a weekly meeting like every Sunday, at least to sensitize women, at least to come step forward to participate in political participation as a woman. As I am talking to you now, we are planning for a national tour with the Women Bureau so that we can meet our people on the grassroots level to talk to them and then create more awareness for them to come forward as far as leadership positions are concerned.
Okay.
Yeah.
With UDP, Yakumba, you've given me some wonderful statistics about executive and all the rest of it. Cabinet, imagine in December, you emerge winners. Still same commitment, 30% of executive or cabinet members women? Is there such a commitment?
Absolutely, we are committed. I don't think it's an imagination for us now. I think we are living the reality, and it will translate in our governance, because like I said, this is a policy that was adopted at Congress. It's actually written, unlike NPP. So the problem is, I do not like being on the same platforms with Auntie Ramzia because of her, I cannot say certain things. Exactly. It's difficult for me to be on the same platform.
It's easy to talk about it, but it's
platform
easy
with her. But I
act.
think reality is they are the ones currently in government, and I feel they have several opportunities to make sure that at least 30% of women are in cabinet. It's unfortunate what has happened both in cabinet and in the National Assembly. President Barrow, in the National Assembly, during nominations, the president nominates 5 during the last elections. To fill in the gap, this could have been an opportunity for him, for all 5 of these nominees to be women. Because what's the representation of women in the National Assembly? I think you have 2 elected women, 2 nominated women. It was even a higher number during our time. In cabinet, how many female ministers do you have? I think you have 3. 3
Elected.
Oh, no, I mean in cabinet.
In cabinet,
okay.
yes.
Exactly, appointed. So I think the president, if he was really, really keen on women empowerment, it would have shown in the formation of his cabinet. And he doesn't have an excuse to say there are no qualified Gambian women. Absolutely, we have a lot of qualified Gambian women to take on these positions. So a UDP government definitely would adhere to this resolution of the party and would ensure at least 30% of cabinet would be women. And I would push for even the vice presidency, because I think among all the presidents, with even Jammeh has made effort to keep a female vice president, to say the least, throughout his tenure. So I think President Barrow could have followed suit. He had an opportunity to change vice presidents. He could have followed the same suit, but he did. But the UDP government will definitely push for this.
So that's an interesting one. So you want to institutionalize, as it were, the vice presidency, sort of like gender aligned, must be a woman.
Exactly.
Is that it?
I think that would be fair. If we have presidents to be male, party leaders to be male, I think it would be affirmative actions by the leaders, the presidents themselves, to make sure we have a female vice president.
Is that a UDP policy commitment you're making?
It's a UDP, the policy commitment is that 30% of cabinet would be female. And among these 30%, the women in the UDP currently in these leadership positions will push to have the female vice president.
So not quite policy document, exactly. And just one more thing. We've seen over and over again, when a party is in opposition, you will support all kinds of programs. What mechanism do you have in place to make sure that in power, post-elections, that commitment, as it were, will be fulfilled?
Like I said, this is a resolution adopted by Congress. It's a party policy. And the party needs to abide by its policies, its laws, and its resolutions. So any president appoints cabinet. If His Excellency Hussein Nudaban, inshallah, he will become president come 2026. He is a lawyer. He knows the commitment of the party. He knows the existence of the policy, and he respects the law. We all know that. We'll follow suit.
Okay, we will reserve His Excellency bit until post-elections.
No, you see, he has earned the title. He was vice president. I know President Barrow doesn't like that, but he is our Excellency.
He has no objection with that whatsoever.
From what you've heard so far, what would be your response on that?
Like Auntie Ramzi Jab said, we have been meeting over the months and the years. And for me, I am very much, and for Nopal to speak of, we are very much satisfied and impressed with the women that are from political parties that actually represent the political parties at the network, the commitment they have, the zeal they have to actually ensure that things are pushed forward, but also where political parties commit to things. And for me, our wish and our prayer point is for political parties to listen to women like Yakumba, women like Auntie Ramsey, women like Fajane, to ensure, because like Yakumba said, the knowledge is there, the evidence are there. You know, some political parties have tested certain policies and it works for them. So it's not like other political parties will be doing this in a vacuum. Some do it and, you know, it's a success, it's celebrated. So it's about emulating it and ensuring that every political party shows a commitment to women, that on paper, we have policies to ascertain this, but also in practice, when we have the power to do it, we will ensure that we do it. And that just brings me to the question you asked, Yakumba, beyond the representation at Parliament and also the elective positions, the cabinet positions, appointments. I think for the past 10 years, we have been seeing from 4 back to 3 women, back to 2 women in the executive. We want to see that change come post December 2026. We want to see more women in cabinet. We're not asking for rocket science. We're just asking for 30%. That's all we're asking for, 30%, you know, to balance things out, to ensure that women will have trust in that government come to January 2027, that they're committed to have women representation at all levels, from the Parliament to the executive to the councillors, and even where we have the opportunity again, we want to have a female judge at the Supreme Court.
You see?
We do already.
We do already.
No, I mean
the Chief Justice.
Chief Justice. We want a female Chief Justice.
Well, we were all hoping that it was
we
going
were
to be a
hoping we'll have a
female
female Chief Justice. But when the opportunity arises again, we're not only talking about elective positions, but these positions that hold power and influence. We also want to see women given the opportunity to lead.
I said too.
Quite interesting in terms of discussion, so to say. So Yakumba gave in a very salient point in terms of the commitment that are within the UDP. So sometimes usually during this time of the elections, you hear a lot of commitments from different parties, very much strong and very much ambitious, sometimes overly ambitious, that you feel that when elections come, these are actually going to happen. But what happens now and what happens after elections are quite totally two different things at the same time. So we can say we are going to give these things to women, but after election, it's a whole new government. They decide on who they give positions to and how. So we take an example of what happened when the Women's Bill was introduced at the National Assembly, introducing the quota system. What happened? At the end of the day, when it was there, we had the chance of ensuring that we got women. But it was pushed out, and these are individuals from different political parties that push it. So now you tend to ask, having all of these things in mind, you tend to ask the question, are we really serious or committed about the issues of women? So the signs have been there. So even though we might say that, oh, the goodwill is there, the political parties are quite ready to ensure that women will, but it's not actually realistic. I'm actually not optimistic the fact that even though whoever comes, whether they are even going to live up to that promises that they've said that in terms of giving women those positions. Well, it can be, but for me, sitting on the fence, not abiding by whatever. These are just mere promises that I will see, because it's good to be written on paper, but they can always be on the other side to say that they decide whatever happens, whoever comes in power. And then looking at the current cabinet composition, then the number of ministerial positions and having just 3, it's quite a sad story.
Absolutely, that's the key, isn't it? Promises, policies, but are they self-binding? Because the question of representation, the way things are right now, isn't it? Without a quota system or having agreements like all nominations, the 5 or so nominations would be given to women, without such proactive, as it were, approach, the imbalance would be in place for a very long time. Let me come to you first, Fatou Janet. What do you think of this? We have all of these policies, but they seem not binding on us. Is there anything within your structures that would make these policies on women binding? Whoever is in power, whether you like it or not, that's the rule, that's the law. Is that how it works with you?
Yes, there are policies, but as my colleagues just said, if there are policies and then it is not a law, I think it's going to be a very difficult thing for it to happen. As you said, to say it and then to actionize it are two different things. Yeah. Our party, we're making sure that, as I said, we're given equal opportunities to both men and women from the grassroots level. And then we're advocating for this 50-50 representation. So that's not a problem on our side. It's a policy which, you know, we are abided by it. This coming election 2026, inshallah, after the election you will see changes, as I said, because there are many female candidates coming forward at least to contest, as Degen just said, for the National Assembly or local government elections.
In your national executive, how many women are there?
We have 4.
Out of?
Out of 14. Out of 13.
Out of 13?
Yeah.
Now,
Well, it looks like I'm being bamboozled by all these people because I come from the ruling party. And just to reply to Yakumba, who just said, inshallah, her party leader is going to be president, I'm also emphasizing here that inshallah, President Adama Barrow will be the president in 2026 December. And when that happens, you are going to see a lot of changes. As at now, for the past 3 months, all throughout our executive meetings, we've been emphasizing on women's empowerment. And this is something that we take very seriously. And we have a president who listens to us. When we tell him this is what have been decided, he abides by that. He realizes that, yes, we have minimal female representation in both cabinet, in the diplomatic field, in a lot of institutions. So there you would see a lot of changes come 2026. Yes, sometimes, as they say, policy is easy to write down policy. How are we going to implement it? One, we have talked about National Assembly passing a law. When that happens, gradually we'll be able to see women, because every step starts with one. If we start with one and we continue and we keep pushing, I'm sure we will eventually get there. Because we have very powerful women in all the political parties who really want to see women in the forefront, and I support that too.
NPP, you've been in power since 2021. Until now, how come you haven't really made any radical inroads in this?
But you have seen, but you have seen women. But you have seen women in NPP, very powerful women in MPP being empowered. You have seen what the president just did for the women. $50 million is given to women. You've seen the SWEAT program, where they have the young girls being trained and given soft loans between $50,000 to $75,000. I think these are improvements that have been ongoing with regards to women.
Granted, just very quickly, that 50 million.
Boyd wants to hold me by the neck and he won't get that. Yeah, okay.
Is it women empowerment or partisan empowerment?
It is women. Every party is empowering your women. So why should we not empower our women?
So it's not national, it's more party political.
Of course it is party political, because you have the, if every party does what we are doing, then generally we would have the same achievements.
Yes. I would have actually been interested to know the aspect of the question being asked so far in terms of the political party structure, the executive level. What's the constitution of women? The
executive level in NPP is 60-40.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a lot of women in the executive. It's actually, at the moment, it's 60-40.
Okay. Interesting.
Yes, you're
no,
done?
okay. I can move ahead. So it's interesting, the aspect of policies that I'll still have to actually go again. So I'll just take, for instance, having the policies internally and then using them is different from being able to actualize them. And I think, as you've mentioned, NPP has the upper hand to be able to implement these things. So we look at the National Assembly elections are actually coming just after this presidential elections. We've actually seen all of them are actually probably male candidates that we've seen for now. So the parties themselves have the responsibility of being able to push these candidates, especially for female candidates. But when you look at during the National Assembly elections, most of those candidates that have been pushed by these political parties are all male. So what the responsibilities of pushing these female candidates are actually there, but parties are actually not doing that. So that also goes back to our internal party structure, how well we actualize most of these things. So beyond the commitments that we always do, it could be the same thing. So at some point, you will tend to ask yourself this question: are we really in for having a male candidate, or would we actually choose to go in for a female candidate? What we will, because sometimes it's not even the male, our male counterparts within the party structure that do that, but even us, the female, will actually push to either have the male candidate than even having the women candidate. So sometimes, in as much as we push to get these people out there, at some point, question actually goes back from the male counterpart saying, oh, most of the problem lies with us, the women, whether we are really even ready to support our own. So that's also a question that we need to put into consideration at some point.
I know you did not ask.
Is it all right? Come in.
I think I always find statements like that a little difficult for me to take, and I think women always support women. We all find ourselves in a system that that make us go against our interests and not actually factor our interests. And for these past days, my favorite slogan has been, please, political parties, when candidate selection is due, don't consensus women out of being selected. Because usually it's like, no, we did not, we wanted to select women, but it is the communities that sit down, build consensus, and choose a candidate. But always it is women that are consensus out of the race, not women. So, and at the end of the day, it is seen as, okay, it is women that actually did not support the women to have a woman candidate. When it is a structural issue. Usually, okay, let's sit down, build consensus, but at the end of the consensus, we always see it is the male candidate that comes out, that comes out as the winner of the consensus building. And these are structural issues that we really
But also,
need to build.
let's go back to the aspect of the positions that are really given, taking care from her, the positions that are given to who makes the decisions at the end of the day. Where do the women sit in terms of making those decisions to build those consensus around who actually leads the party in whatever election.
Yeah.
So when you look at it in this case, positions are given to women in this executive position, but those positions really hold authority to be able to make decisions at a particular level. So you ask those questions, because sometimes the positions that are given to women is gender and welfare officer, or given other certain responsibilities that you don't have that much authority or power to make certain decisions. And it becomes a problem. Even if you want to push a woman, who are you to even make sure or come to the conclusion that, oh, we are going to go with this? You don't have much say in that particular executive. So with that, it becomes a problem for you to be able to make certain changes or decisions in terms of who actually lead. So at some point, when decisions are actually made by these people, you just have to follow at the end of the day. But also, those women, would they really have to abide by what they say? Because they are part and parcel of that particular party, and the decisions have to be consensual. Even those within the executive have their decisions to make. But how about them at the end of the day? If I don't conform with this particular candidate in question, we'll have to go and rally. You don't expect us to support you in a certain, to rally behind you, clapping and dancing, when you wouldn't accept the candidate that we want to also put up. So because it's a party, decisions have to be made equally.
And just one point, Butch, before you move on. And I am so glad I had Auntie Ramsey say we're winning, and I had Yakumba say we're winning. That gives us an edge right now, So when NPP win, I'm like, Auntie Ramsey, our 30%. When UDP win, I'm like, Yakumba, our 30%.
That's it.
Yes.
But this is the key, though. You've touched the heart of it all. Voter mobilization, women. Everybody knows that.
Listen, just before we move forward, I think between the two of them, they've raised important issues that they want answers to. First of all, I will start with your earlier statement that come 2027, you need change. And I think that's exactly what is needed in the Gambia. Change is what is needed, and that starts with changing the current government if we really want to see change. So,
Are we on a political
so no, but we are talking
talk
facts.
about women.
So Auntie Ramsia also made a statement that the 50 million they are distributed, is it 50 million?
Yes.
Yes.
It's been done only on a political level for NPP women. With all due respect, I think this is a very, very serious issue because you do not expect a party in government to have this kind of fund only for its members. I think Gambian women need to
But that's
wake
a
up.
private fund.
Even if it is
it
a
didn't come from
private-
government coffers.
Even if it is a private fund, I think government should have made effort for it to be a government fund shared among all Gambian women to have access to it, rather than giving priority to NPP women. Because if we're talking about women, we are talking about Gambian women. It's not a woman regarding a particular political party. I just thought I would make that point.
Okay.
On the second issue, regarding the leadership of women, even in the political parties, whether they really have a voice. In the UDP, as executive members, both male and female have a single vote. So it doesn't matter whether you're male or female. Decisions are taken with votes. And I'll just take you back to the statistics because I think we need to give UDP some credit because we are not only talking about these policies. We don't just have them written down. We are making every effort in the book to make sure these policies come to life. And I'll take you back to the past elections. Give it the mayoral elections. It is only the United Democratic Party that put up a female candidate as mayor, that gave Gambia its first female mayor of Banjul. And when you look at National Assembly also, even though we have only one elected member, UDP put up we put up 16 female candidates,
Out
more
of?
than any other party.
Out of?
I think it was 16 out of, I don't have the right
If you have
figure.
like 53 constituencies.
No, we didn't put,
Or
we didn't put up all 53 constituencies. We didn't put up candidate, but I think we put up at least 40 or 40, yeah, 40 something candidates. I don't have the number.
Okay.
But I know out of this, we had 16. Among all the political parties, including NPP, it was only UDP that put up 16. I was among those put up 16 female candidates. But also, it is Gambia. We can put up the candidate, but it is the Gambians that vote for these candidates. And out of all these 16, they decided to only vote one. So sometimes it's not the fault of the political parties. Gambians also have to take a responsibility. It is not just we can put up the candidates for you, but then you make a decision. There was a female. I was among these candidates for Serekunda. I was a female candidate. All the rest of the candidates were male, and the people of Serekunda decided to choose a male candidate. Not because he is more competent, not because he has more experience. I even had a proof track record of what I did in Parliament. So sometimes it's not just, we struggle. I will just give an example in the UDP. So there is this, I think there is this people generally, particularly women, and this goes to the educated Gambian women, are generally scared of politics in this country. This is a problem we need to talk about.
Exactly.
So sometimes it's not the political party not wanting to place these women in leadership roles. We do not see them. We do not see them, and we struggle to have them because everybody likes to play safe. I could have said, fold my hands and said, I'm going to follow my practice. Why am I doing this? But the country needs to hear our voices. We matter, and only we can make statements for ourselves. So this is a cry for the Gambian women, particularly the educated ones. Majority of people in politics are women, but not educated women.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll come back to that. I
Thank
just
you.
have one more.
I just
Yeah.
Do you have a fund within UDP for women?
Okay, so UDP during, because this is opposition parties don't receive funding from government. You know, in other countries, there is a special fund to help opposition party, but this is not in the Gambia. So the party has to come up with its own funds. But during the 2022 elections, the party only funded the female candidates, not the male.
No,
There
what,
was a-
what I mean is, because you had earlier said with the NPP fund for NPP women, I'm wondering whether you've got a fund for women, and there would be UDP women.
No, we don't.
No.
We don't have a fund for women. What we do is, during election time for the female candidates, in order to empower them, from the little resources we have, priority is given to the female candidates. They're the one being funded.
Well, let me
You want to-
let me buttress again to Yakumba. This is exactly what I wanted to ask. Every party have their own policy. This was a policy that MPP sat down and decided that we have to do something to empower our women. And then we came up with a private fund, asked around. UDP could do the same. And then we said, we are now going to do this for our women. So to sit here and say it should have been for the whole government, why should we now stretch our hands to an opposition that do not want us to be in government? Every party have your own fund. Get your own funds and empower your women. And I would agree with Yakumba talking about the educated women. Educated women don't want to be in politics, especially in this country. One, I think they are afraid of people scandalizing you, because, for example, if Yakumba wants to stand, or I want to stand for a position in national, say, oh, is she divorced? She doesn't have a husband. She has this, sometimes they will say she has a child out of wedlock. If a man has that, nobody cares. But with the woman, and here, that is why the last time we were talking about having a policy where we could copy from Senegal. You find these uneducated women or half-educated women in parliament, and they encourage their local language. They speak Wolof in their National Assembly, and these are very powerful women. We have very powerful women in the Gambia here who are not educated, but very powerful in politics. They can pull crowds, they can win elections, but they cannot go to the National Assembly because the policy is just English. I think we have to change that.
I also want to buttress
So now,
buttress on
PDOIS. So,
anti-Ramsey.
Fatijane,
Sorry.
you've had two positions about funds. Should it be for Gambia? Should it be for the party? What about PDOIS? Do you have a fund for women, and there would be PDOIS women? Is that how it goes?
I said no,
Okay,
like
tell us how
other
it goes. Tell us.
like other parties. We generate our funds by membership registration. And then we given, as I said, we given equal opportunities to both male and female. There is no fund like purposely for women candidates. If anyone is willing to contest or have the interest to contest, we'll be funding both of them, both men and women. There is no discrimination saying that this fund is purposely for women candidates.
All right.
Yeah.
So,
But I also wanted to buttress on
Okay,
Auntie Ramsia's point. Like, there is, I think the civic education also is lacking. It has been introduced, but it's only been introduced at the top level, like the senior secondary school. I think it should start from the lower basic and then goes on, because there's a word or should I say it, constitutional participation. If you cannot, if you don't understand your constitution, you will never be able to participate. And then by introducing this local our national languages to the National Assembly, I think it will help for women to come forward, at least to participate, to be able to participate fully in terms of the political leadership positions in the Gambia.
that's it. To dig in before I come to you. So we've seen this. Voter mobilization, the campaigns, women are just so important to voting men into power, but so radically underrepresented. We've touched on some of the reasons why. How do we surmount some of the factors that hold them back? No doubt political will is certainly part of it, but social norms as well. This is what people are saying. How are you, being sort of in civil society, how are you tackling this in your campaign, in your awareness programs?
Very well, Mr. Mbuj. I think what Auntie Ramsey and Honorable have touched on some of the social factors, such as the issue of harassment, the issue of violence, of women in the political space, and unfortunately, there is no binding policy that is in place to actually address it, apart from the General Electoral Code of Conduct and other documents, but specifically a gender policy to protect women politicians. I think this is one of our advocacy that we will be pushing on. Women want to come into politics. They are afraid. The backlash is huge, it's damaging. Unfortunately, there is no psychosocial support services for politicians. And, you know, some people go back home with a lot of trauma from, you know, from trying to contest for these political positions. And that hinders a lot of women from coming into politics. The other thing is funding. Generally, Gambian women are poor. We don't have the money. And every electoral year, in and out, we have seen increase in the cost of politics without consideration. And if you talk, they will tell you we are trying to sieve out everything, you know, some Tom and Dick and Harry from the race. But you're sieving out women. We're the ones being sieved out in the process. At the end of the day, this is a democracy, and I think it should be affordable and fair for everyone to be able to participate. And if we don't have funding to actually fund our campaigns, to fund our, not even campaign, to fund our nomination itself, you know, it will be difficult for women to be able to come into politics. And like Yakumba said, apart from incumbent, apart from the incumbent political party, the other political parties have no means of, they don't have funding from the government. Sorry, even the incumbent. Political parties in this country don't have a designated fund from government to facilitate, you know, their participation in elections. And it will be difficult if they want to, you know, sponsor a certain number of candidates into the race. And it's difficult, and it has been difficult for women because we don't have the financing to participate in politics. And you are right, we're the kingmakers. It is women that campaign. It is women that, you know, popularize these candidates. And when it comes to voting day, it is women that vote. And we're the, not even voting, we're the ones that legitimize after voting, you know, this, we're the ones that continue singing their praises to ensure that they're legitimate enough to continue ruling. So yes, the social barriers are there, but the financial and the economic barriers are there. But for us as NOPAL, in our programs of campaign this year, is to go down to the grassroots, meet the women in their markets, in their gardens, but also meet their campaigns to able to galvanize force to have to vote more women in power.
I said, unless you've got a question as well, should we have an all-female shortlist?
For the
sort of assembly elections and even local government,
of course,
in
yes.
all of this, all-female shortlist.
Yes,
so
most definitely we can have we should have an all-female shortlist. So looking at it, it goes beyond who they are or whether they could be able to be there. They should be there because of the constitution of our political parties, and looking at the important role that they actually play. Being the kingmakers, they should actually go beyond being the kingmakers, but then what role they could also play to be able to change the status quo of the political party system, but also the country as a whole.
Absolutely. Yakume, you raised a very important point. Female, your party put you up, but the electorate said no. that sort of thing. But then, how do we deal with that? This is how democracy works. They decide, but I think other countries have found other ways, all female shortlists, for instance.
Yeah.
So, any mechanisms you have in place to deal with that?
Definitely, it's affirmative action. And going back again, it's unfortunate because this affirmative action was in the draft constitution of 2020, where there were 14 seats reserved for women, 2 regional seats for every region, which was only to be competed amongst females. Unfortunately, this draft again was thrown out of the parliament, with the president being the architect of the removal of the draft 2020 from the National Assembly. And I think a UDP government definitely will include affirmative action in the new constitution. One of our priorities as a government will be to reintroduce the 2020 draft. And this affirmative action will be voted for. The second thing is, she mentioned something very important, which is funding. we have also seen, unfortunately, with this present government, that nomination fees were, is it tripled? Is the right word? So, for example, is 250,000 for a parliamentarian. How many parliamentarians do you think political opposition parties can afford to sponsor, given the fact that the funding comes from our membership? I think that alone should wake Gambian women up, because that is a deliberate act to suppress democracy in this country, because that is saying only the people who can afford it can become candidates in the National Assembly. And like she said, the women, we are the poorest. So that excludes us from the race. And this is a very important factor that we need to address. How are they going to address it as civil society if they go out? What can be done in this? Because the money has to be raised. We need to find a way to make sure these people have the money. So how is civil society planning, that's my question to you, to help these women to raise this money? I always say during political campaigns that they would want to do, most of the time, they would invite us and want to train us. But then if you train us on certain things and we don't have the materials, because I've experienced elections in this country and I don't want to do it again. I always say it, it's very costly. Yeah. I spent almost over $300,000 since I started my campaign after nomination in 2 weeks. Who can afford that? Because I had the opportunity that people saw what I can do in Parliament and were willing to donate to the campaign. But how many people will have that? So how are we going to navigate this to make sure women are going to be given a chance? But definitely for a UDP government, there will be affirmative action. It's going to be low.
No, but I think talking about the cost for being tripled, is it not being approved by the National Assembly?
With majority of the MPP parliamentarians.
Let's just take that aside.
The whole of UDP
voted against it.
Okay, but the majority agreed that this should happen. Well, coming back to costing for women, I think this is across the board for everybody. Women are being suppressed when it comes to that. You will find a woman candidate and a male candidate. Somebody, a businessman like you, would want to sponsor the male candidate and leave the woman candidate. So this is also one of the major problems that we have. If we don't address that situation, it's going to give us a problem. But talking about the National Assembly, I think the women also have a role to play in this. Also, the parties, I had made one suggestion, which could be, but is that if a party sees that in this constituency, for example, Serekunda West, is definitely a UDP stronghold, why not put up Yakumba there, and all the others will support her because they know that this is our stronghold. That also could bring women into the National Assembly. If you go to CRR and you know that this place is for NPP, all the other male candidates should step down and give it to the woman, and they all support her and sponsor her, so that we'll have enough women in Parliament.
Putting women up in winnable seats.
In winnable seats, yes.
Also, one other aspect that I've also realized in these things, visible leadership also matters a lot. If you are able to have the support within the party system and then celebrating women's achievement, that also tries to reset what people actually see to be the norm, which is it's just the men that are actually doing best. But then within the political party system, and even prior to elections, that they are able to celebrate the women within themselves, seeing the leadership role that they've played, that also could change a whole lot more.
You could see that this has been the problem since the time of Jawara. Only one woman candidate I know, which is Nimasata Sane Bojang, who stood for Sukuta or somewhere, and she Burfoot, and she won. But even since the time of the First Republic to date, you have very few women, and it seems to be going down and down and downhill. So I think we need to improve on this also. And also most of the political parties should make it in our agenda to be promoting the achievement of women that have done well in society, that have done well in government, so that as you read, you will say,
Yeah.
Look at this woman. This is all what she did. Maybe I would have the courage to
Certainly.
come and
Yeah.
vie for
Yeah.
a position.
So because that sometimes
Because
after
sometimes you
sit
shy away, you say,
side
oh,
with-
they are not going. But if they see that this woman has done this woman had done, this woman was an activist, this woman was locked up, this one, and she still got up to fight. Another person will say, well, if she can do it, I can do it.
Absolutely. So we have to bring in Fatou Jani here. And with Doi, of course, you're always talking about gender parity and all the rest of it. Yet in 2022, you put up 19 candidates, only 3 were women. How would that change? What have you been doing to change that this time?
We are back on the ground. As I said, we are having our representatives on all the regions, and then we will continue the sensitization to bring in more women on board. Talking about recognizing women's efforts in politics, I would like to recognize some of our women leaders, because we are still celebrating the DOI at 40, which will be completed this month of August. I would like to recognize the effort of Auntie Ami Silasar and others, Auntie Ndeti Dasise. I cannot name them all. Yeah, we are still on the pipeline, like advocating for more women to come on board. We cannot force them, as we all mentioned here. It's just a process, a gradual process that will encourage them more, at least to come forward.
Digin, what should we realistically expect? There's a lot of talk, the rhetoric, but the reality on the ground. What is doable now when it comes to women's empowerment and representation politically? Short of the binding quota system, as it were, what is doable now? What is it when you draw up your plans as a civil society organization? What do you think that are the low-hanging fruits that we can do for now and move on?
I think for now, because largely, when it comes to women representation, largely it's about political will. So a lot is doable. First, let's start with the appointment of executives. It is doable because it's about looking out for women who are able to serve those positions. And they are in this country. They will serve. You come to the National Assembly and also the local government elections. It's about empowering the women in our political parties to vie for these positions, but also us as civil society to be very intentional in our advocacy. Beyond the conference room and the press conferences, to go down with these women in the communities and actually support their campaign and our advocacy, to amplify their campaign through our advocacy that we are doing. I think also, talking about political parties, it is very fair that we also look inward in the way we engage. Civil society's engagement is important. Like Yakumba said, the trainings are important. The mentorship is important, but it's time we become very intentional in the way we engage in promoting youth and women participation. If we want young people to win, we should be able to go to the ground and look at youth candidates and actually support their campaign. If we want women to win, we should be able to go to the ground and actually support women candidates to win. Like to their campaign grounds, the little funding we have to maybe have a women basket, political basket, where we have philanthropists, donors to chip in. However little it is, at least we give each a little as a form of encouragement. So this time we are moving from trainings, mentorship and all that to actually being very intentional about our commitment. And come 2027, you will see me a lot in the campaign ground for a lot of women who will be ready to vie for positions. It doesn't matter which political parties they will be vying for. So far as they are coming forward, wherever they are, as NOPAL, we will be joining their campaign trails and we will be going to the grassroots to campaign for them. And 30% is very attainable. It's very attainable. It's about political parties, as I said, not, not negotiating women out of the race, and those that come up, for them to support them with the little funding they have, and we will do our part in reaching the grassroots.
If I may, before Aissatou comes, just on funding with civil society and also donors, because most of the time, donors would say things like, we cannot give money, we don't want to get involved in the politics of a country. But what you can do, and I've said this on many platforms, you don't have to give the money, But the thing that costs the most in political campaigns is campaign material. You can actually pay for the campaign material for the female candidates. This is what costs most. Don't give physical cash, but support the campaign by paying for campaign materials. This would really help the campaign, because that's where majority of the funding is. Billboards are costly. Posters are costly, T-shirts are costly, and this is how the candidate can be known for her to win elections. So investment needs to be done in that area. I don't know how civil society can campaign for this from donors to get involved in this way if really we are all serious about gaining the 30%.
That's true.
Well, beyond that aspect of investment, I'll still go back to the aspect of our internal party system. How do we ensure that women are really safe within the political party system? So most of the times when women come out, because some of them are scared, you did mention that they don't even want to come out because of some of the barriers and challenges, sometimes cultural aspects that are there. But once they are attacked, what happens within the political party system, within the party? Most of the time it's actually silence. So that actually breaks most of these women down. So going forward, actually becomes a problem. So probably I'll ask Auntie Ramsey, what happens within your party systems? Why sometimes the absolute silence when women are attacked outside?
I haven't really experienced that much in our party for women being attacked. But I have seen a lot of women being attacked and everybody being silent. But when it comes to a man, everyone will be jumping to his defense. Like I said, this is the reason why a lot of women want to shy away from vying for any positions, because the ones who are supposed to encourage you, if they don't do anything, you will just have to take the back seat and say, okay, I'm not going to do it anymore. Or sometimes you will see members of your family or your children will tell you, this is not worth it. You are doing this for people who are not even supporting you. They should be giving you their backing, and they are not doing anything. So these are some of the constraints that happens. But in my party, I haven't seen that attack on women that I can speak of.
But are these actually embedded in the policies, should in case they happen?
Yes. Should in case they happen, you have the backing of everybody in the executive,
On policy
in the party.
written?
No, not written, but it's an agreement that we have. That if you attack one, you are attacking all, be it male or female. So we have to have a policy where you would have to back or defend anyone who is being molested verbally or being scandalized.
So it's a promise to the policy yet?
It is a promise, yes.
Ours is a policy.
It's not written.
So Yakuma, there's something that I want to explore now.
Yeah.
The differences, your gender policies. What makes yours distinctive from NPPs and PDOISs?
I don't know what NPP's policy on gender really is, but I can speak on ours. We're giving an example about the percentage in leadership, that it was a resolution and a policy that is written. UDP, as we are yet to launch our manifesto in the for the 2026 campaign, but I happen to be a member of the policy committee. And unlike NPP that is having a fund only for their members, UDP, I'm reading directly from the policy document, that the UDP-led government will invest in a special purpose fund to support agriculture, manufacturing, and women-owned and women-led businesses with tailor-made solutions at low interest rates on very flexible terms. This is aimed at the economic empowerment of the Gambian women and businesses and startups. So this is one of the written policies of the UDP, of a UDP government, that we are creating a special fund for just this purpose.
Okay. Have you financed it? How would you finance this fund?
Well, I think it's prioritizing. There are certain areas that women are very keen in, that we know women work on. For example, agriculture. I think in the UDP budget, agriculture would be giving priority, and from this agricultural fund, a special fund will be created just to target women. For example, I had this experience during the 2022 campaign in a village called Sabasanja. I saw women carrying big baskets of tomatoes, ripe tomatoes. A whole basket was going for 200 alasses. I wondered, why are you selling this at this very low price? They said they don't have a choice because they do not have storage facilities. It is in the UDP policy that they will make sure that there are storage facilities for women gardeners in every region to avoid them selling their produce at very low cost and not making anything at the end of the day. Also, it's one of the, it's in our policies, the UDP government will create factors, because just today we were having this conversation about how you cannot find a good tomato paste in the Gambian market when our women are gardening loads of tomatoes. If factories are created that the women can actually manufacture these tomatoes into paste, this is something that is part of our policy, and that is UDP, that's good. So it's just prioritizing in the budget.
Okay, you're going to prioritize agriculture. What does that mean? For instance, what percentage of GDP would you take to agriculture, as opposed to what we're doing now, what NPP is doing now? How would that change?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have the statistics of exactly what percentage of GDP would be, but it will come out in the manifesto, because that's the reason we haven't launched, because we are not only stating these policies vaguely that we are going to do this. We are going to make sure whatever policy we have is bankable. We know where they're coming from. So the policy committee at this stage is currently working on these figures, and it will be written in the manifesto.
That's it. It is said by policymakers that when these things are not costed, they're not really policies.
They are. This policy would be costed.
You want to say something
sometimes
quickly?
Maybe just what I want to say, interestingly, most of the times we have these beautifully made manifestos, but when it comes to us campaigning on doing our campaigns, we hardly talk on these policies.
Well, let me. Okay, I think that was the question for me.
Short one, please.
So again, this goes back to the Gambian people. During the 2021 campaign elections, UDP launched its manifesto, and every ground, in every corner of this country, if you are following politics, the 5-point agenda was what we were talking about, what we were selling. Parties like the NPP were busy on the tribal rhetorics. And unfortunately, this is what sells. Because people generally are in for it just for the rhetorics. They are not even actually listening or about the policies. So this is the general problem of the Gambian voters. I think that is the lack of interest of the voters in the policies of the parties. It's not, we are not talking about it. We are actually talking about it.
I think Yakumba is fond of, anytime she talks, she points her finger to NPP. But
So
one thing I hate talking about tribal rhetoric, which I think is an unfair statement. Talking about us, NPP being busy on tribal rhetoric. NPP also had their manifesto. Right now, we have already launched our 9-point agenda. But one thing that baffles me sometimes is, Yakumba just mentioned about this woman with tomatoes and this is what UDP is going to do. What baffles me is sometimes the opposition, they like to talk about these things. Why not do it? Even when you are not yet in government, do it for your women, because you have the people who support you there. Raise funds to do that. That will encourage the people to say, oh, these people are not even in government yet and they are doing this. But if you sit there all the time saying government has not done, government cannot do everything. Government has not done this. When we come, we will do this. Remember, in 2017, it was a coalition government. Her party leader was there. And most of these things could have been implemented because he had the power to do so. So if we sit here now and start talking about all this, it will turn to a political rally.
You have to
but
give me
that is, no. That is an unfair statement for her to make. You know.
Okay, thank you.
So we.
Sorry, we have to bring it back to Janet. You've been listening to all of this.
Yakumba is trying to trigger me into
That's it. So, what makes your gender policy really distinctive?
Well, it's different from others because we have in Women's Bureau whose functions are, one of them is to focus on the family life activities, at least to be able to formulate policies which we were able to free all family members, and then also to empower our women, because we have in different expertise in our Women's Bureau. And then on the agricultural sector, we already kickstart supporting the people at the rural area. We are empowering them in terms of their garden needs. And then we will not stop from there. We'll continue supporting others. We are having women from the energy sector and all other sector of development.
You see, you're just calling it empowering them, naming them in all these positions, but effective decision-making positions and having effects, you know, having an impact. Your policies, have they been impactful in that way? What metrics would you use? How did you measure? How do you measure success?
Well, I did not. I can't say that I did not. I did not have the metrics to be able to measure the success, as you're saying. But we are on the pipeline. Yeah.
You wanted to come in again.
I wanted to come in. Auntie Ramsey and Honorable were actually talking about, and Mr. Mboj, a lot of these issues we are currently discussing. Back to our main point. Yes, it's an issue of who is in power, but basically who is also responsible. A lot of agriculture done in this country, especially horticulture, is done by women in their gardens. And like Yakumba said, they don't have these facilities to actually take care of this. But it is like, we should also test having, for example, Minister of Agriculture being a woman who is able to relate to those women more in the work and, you know, the output that they give the economy, and how best do we help them to support and, you know, scale up, you know, those petty trade that they are doing. Because at the end of the day, representation is, I did not say the men are not able to relate. What I'm saying is, a woman who knows a woman who goes to the furrow and do work, or goes to the garden and, you know, farm tomatoes and other vegetables, is able to relate to that woman more than the man who just passed by and never entered that garden to buy any vegetable. So again, it comes down to giving women these positions so that they're able to deliver to the people that matter the most. And in this case, it is the women that are farming, feeding the population, but also growing the economy. That's what I just wanted to say, you know, to bring them to agreement.
Absolutely. But I said, before you come in, you will say what you want to say, and then there's, as a voter, with all these parties, what should I be looking out for?
So that's exactly, I think actually that's exactly what I wanted to say, and I was even, I even wanted to go to Auntie Ramsey, because when you look at it, we have manifestos. There's actually usually something that we want to sell to the people. How would you convince me to actually vote for you, especially when it comes to the women? How do we force them to? So it's not mainly about, oh, this is a man, this man can actually do this, I can do this better than the man. It goes beyond that. But then once you are voted, what do you actually bring to the table? So we've seen how far NPP, since it launched its manifesto, and then the plans of trying to digitize it, but also translate it into local languages. Yes. The aspect of being able to get people understand more of what the manifesto is actually lacking. Most people don't actually understand, because probably recent engagements that the president has been doing, the president has actually not said much about what it actually intends to do. It's mostly about back and forth with what other political opponents are actually doing beyond.
We already have organized people to go to the grassroots. In every region, we have a committee that goes to the grassroots to explain what this manifesto entails and what the plans are for the next government. It's been happening all over. You know, every party has their, but we have our own, and this is what have been happening on the ground at the moment.
Okay, so but now looking at current situations that people are facing in terms of probably electricity is one, the issue of unemployment and all of those things coupled. But these are things that are hardly talked about.
Well, you know, we live in a global economy that is global. It's not synonymous with only Gambia. We have seen that what is happening now between America and Iran. We have seen the state of Hormuz, how it's affected the world economy. So for me, I'm not saying we are doing very well, but if you compare us to other countries in West Africa, it's easy to sit here and talk about, but when you go to other countries, I've been traveling around West Africa, and I see the hardship of countries that even have oil, and we don't have. I think we are doing very well. I'm not saying we are doing 100%. We still want to improve more, but we are far better than a lot of these countries. And in terms of the electricity, we are all being affected by this. And sometimes I say we don't have a leadership problem. We have a people's problem. If I am given a position to sit here and do a job, I think I have to be honest to the government and to the people to tell them exactly what is happening and tell me solutions that is going to happen. But sometimes we live in a world where people are given positions and they just do it for their own gains instead of being patriotic. I think we need to be more patriotic in whatever we do. And then tomorrow we can all sleep and wake up in the morning with a smile.
What is UDP, what is NPP doing about that?
Right
You
now,
keep on saying
no,
you
right
do,
now,
what are you doing
right now,
about that?
right now, they've been having talks about how to improve this electricity. This electricity problem has been on throughout all the governments.
That's
And
when people
we
are not
we
doing
want,
the right thing.
Yes,
The corruption,
Yes.
essentially.
Yes.
You haven't told what are you doing with
Exactly.
corruption?
Right now, they are in talks because I'm not involved in that. I'm not part of that. But I know that there have been closed-door meetings, and the president is very committed and very concerned about what has been happening. I'll give you an example. We had the car power, you know, but as far as my investigation tells me, the president was told that we don't need the car power anymore, that we have enough capacity. And you put people there, you trust them with what they are going to tell you. And then when the car power left, now this problem happened. We depend on the OMVG. The capacity cannot reach all of us, and we need our backup in order to make sure that we have
So
the
the
electricity.
president was misled?
And, well, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that the president was told that car power, we don't need it anymore. And it's not a secret.
Who said it? Who
it's
said
not
it?
a secret because he said it in one of
Who
the
said it? Who said
the
it?
campaign.
Did heads roll? You see, this is how you find them when you are misled. Heads must roll.
Well, I don't know about it, but I know right now that the president is very concerned, very much concerned about this electricity problem. And I know that very soon you will see some improvement.
Which will actually take me back to the question that you asked me. What would you sell for me to buy?
Exactly.
Is that being able to get yourself closer, understanding my situation. It's not being defensive on the problems. Oh, we're actually doing this and doing so. But what I need to see efforts. I need to see results in terms of what has been. You've mentioned the aspect of corruption, but what has changed? Like you said, there is no head that have actually ruled. People
Well,
have
you will see
time
heads
without numbers.
Another promise.
Yes,
Another
exactly.
promise.
No,
Time
I'm not
without
promising.
numbers. We've seen.
I'm not promising.
We've
I'm
seen,
saying
let's
it
say,
is
for
going to
example,
happen.
Gala or so, these are concerned citizens that have come out, time without numbers, to talk about issues that have actually affect the ordinary citizen. But at the end of the day, it's more like they see those people as they actually being idle, not even crying out. But these are concerns that people actually raise. Time without numbers, journalists also bring in loopholes of certain issues that are actually happening in the country. For me, I think a government should actually look at those things and use those things as a yardstick and use that as an opportunity to be able to address the problems and challenges that the population is actually saying, I'm actually facing.
That's it. We don't have, oh yeah, come on.
Okay, thank
We
you.
don't have
So
long to
there's
go.
something that I want to address and directly goes to Auntie Ramsey. And it's not personal at all.
No, it's not.
But I think she needs to understand, and MPP needs to understand, that UDP is not government. And I think sometimes even the general public holds us to higher standards, even more than government. Naturally, I think it's because of the authority we command and the kind of people we have.
You've been in opposition since
We have.
1996,
So we are not government. It is not an opposition's party responsibility to do certain things. It's not in our responsibility to build a factory. We don't have government funds. We are not responsible for the Consolidated Revenue Fund. It is the government that is currently sitting that has the authority to prioritize this. And so what we can do is to only say what we would do when we come into government. And the second thing she mentioned, the issue of NAWEC and the issue of corruption. She said it's a people problem. I insist it's a leadership problem. If I am the leader and you give me a wrong advice as an expert, heads will immediately roll. And if I am a leader and I should have the capacity to determine if they say we have, Barrow went out and said, we have enough capacity. We have even capacity that we can use, we are saving.
But that's what he was told.
But it is his responsibility to verify as a leader. He was the one we voted for. He is the one who has the main responsibility. If he was told this, it was his duty before coming out to tell people to go about and see where is this capacity.
But for a while it was working. This thing just happened recently. It's not that after they gave him the advice, it was not happening.
One at a time, one at a time, one at a time.
It's not
No, you can't hold me to that.
It's President Barrow we voted for, and he carries the ultimate responsibility. And he is the one appointing these people to these positions. And these people should be responsible to implement his own vision. He needs to have the vision first for it to be implemented properly. And this electricity crisis affects the women more. The women selling fish are struggling daily. Even the women selling wonjo in their houses for lunch for their kids going to school. It's a problem. They can no longer carry out their business.
Your point perfectly.
Okay, and I need to clarify again that what I mean is when he was told, you have people that you have put in position, experts, and these experts come to tell you we have enough capacity. Are you sure we have the enough capacity? The president does not have a bionic brain to be able to go into the machines and see that. It depends on what they tell him. Once they told him that, he was satisfied because for a while, even when Car Power left, you could all testify that electricity had been stable. This thing just happened when this Strait of Hormuz was closed. Oil became on the high, and then the OMVG could not supply the OMVG countries, and we needed the backup. That's when the problem starts.
Did he fire the person who misled him?
I don't know who misled him, so don't put words into my mouth. No, but I know that he had an expert team that told him the kappa, and this is what happened. And I know those same people he had called, and they are trying to resolve the problem. I'm not saying we are not. I am affected. Everybody's affected with what is happening. The president himself is affected, and he wouldn't want to see a blackout in this country when we are in an election period.
Absolutely. So now we're coming towards the end now. Fatu, finally, your 2 or 3 commitments in this presidential campaign. What commitments would you give to women right now? 2 or 3, quickly.
To support them in terms of funding, and then to create more awareness to them. Those are the commitments, I think, because they need support, of course, especially people from the rural area. Some of them, I think they are afraid of what we've just mentioned here, the harassment and the like. I would also appeal if survivors support centers are created, or a toll-free number which you know that is active for women who are in the dilemma during election time.
That's it. Ramzia, 2 or 3 commitments that you will be campaigning on this time, the presidential election.
Putting women in the forefront.
Okay.
Of our campaign. And I want to make a commitment that when we win, you will see more women in government than you have ever seen before.
Okay,
so I'm asking everyone to come join us.
How many have you got in cabinet right now? 3 or so?
Yes, we have 3
So when you win,
cabinet.
how many? 6, 8, 10?
When we win, I'm just making a commitment that the 30% that we signed is something that the president has pledged to make sure that he implements it.
So let's cabinet membership.
Cabinet membership everywhere.
Okay, Yakumba, 2 or 3 commitments that you'll be campaigning on in the presidential election about women, how to empower women.
There will be affirmative action to create increased women representation in leadership position, both in cabinet and in parliament. Second, I spoke about the sovereign fund to empower women, particularly in agriculture. We would have, let me just read from the manifesto, land access, credit, extension services. These remain major constraints for women. So we would have gender-responsive reforms essential for productivity and gains for women. This is one thing that a UDP government would do. So economic reform, parliamentary reform, executive cabinet reform.
Thank you. I'm digging. From all that you've heard, which of these parties is the friendliest, women-friendly party? Which one?
Thank you, Mr. Mood. So first of all, I want to inform the general public that the response line 1313 is available now for women in politics. In case of abuse or they need psychosocial support, they could contact the line 1313. And actually, first of all, Mr. Mood, I want to thank and congratulate all parties for the efforts they're doing for women. But specifically, I want to congratulate the UDP and the PDOIS for having a gender policy in their political party. We have seen efforts that the NPP is doing with women empowerment, but Auntie Ramsey, we want to encourage your political party to formalize and have a gender policy so that we are able to, you know, mark commitments and see how we follow up. Generally, all political parties, especially the major ones, are doing efforts for women empowerment. And I'm not saying this because I'm trying to be neutral. We have, you know, shared so many platforms where each political party actually bring what they are doing to the table. We just want to congratulate those who had done something and encourage those others who are trying to actually do more. So me, my political party, my constituency is the women. And whatever political party might win or a contestant, what you can sell me for me to buy is whatever agenda point you bring. Clearly explain what, you know, how it will benefit women. And that is how any political party is getting my vote.
Thank you very much. You managed to duck my question there, but it doesn't matter. I said to quickly.
For me, I'll finally say, yes, it's one thing to have these gender policies in place, but it's also another to be able to ensure that they become actionable and measurable as well, so that it actually serves its intended purpose. We are here, promises are actually made. We look at what happens after, beyond the presidential elections. The cabinet positions, like you said, the aspect of the National Assembly elections and local government elections will be here, will be on the lookout. We'll also be following on the things that you've said.
Thank you very much. We've come to the end now. Viewers, you've heard their commitments, so we'll hold their feet to the fire as we go on. So thank you very much to our guests. On my immediate right, I'm Ramziya Diab, Executive Member of NPP. Thank you very much for coming. And on her right, we've got Fatou Jane, West Coast Region Coordinator and Women's Affairs Member, PDOIS. And of course, my co-panelist, Aissatou Keita. And on her left, we have Yakuba Jaite of, Deputy Senior Admin Secretary and Policy and Legal Committee Member, UDP. And on her left, we have Digan Job, Chairperson, Network of Women in Political Leadership. Thank you very much for joining us. Next week, you're going to have another interesting topic. Goodbye.